The Dallas Stars are looking to get back to their winning ways tonight against a struggling Vegas Golden Knights squad. On today's episode, I'll give you the rundown on the Vegas injuries that are plaguing their roster, as well as giving you some key matchups to watch out for and some keys to victory for the Dallas Stars on this game day edition of Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis. It is Wednesday, October 27th. It is once again Dallas Stars game day. Big game coming up tonight as Dallas is looking to go back to above 500 in the win column, currently sitting, 3 wins, 3 losses. Not the worst start that we've seen from the Dallas Stars, but certainly not the best. They are looking to get back on track after a tough loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets in Ohio on Monday night. But before we jump into everything, whether this is your first time listening or you are a recurring listener, I want to say thank you for stopping by the show and thank you for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. I encourage you to subscribe to the show, follow the show if you do not do so already. You can do that wherever you get your podcast at, as well as on YouTube. So I really appreciate any subscriptions, any follows, and any reviews that you guys leave. Feel free to leave a review if you like what you hear from the show. But without any further ado, let's jump right into today's talking points. The first of those being the Vegas Golden Knights. This is a team that Dallas did not see at all last season due to the realignment of the NHL, just with teams playing within their division and Dallas being moved to a division that did not feature the Vegas Golden Knights. And Vegas, was one of the better teams in the league last season. They had a really nice playoff run that ended at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens. They haven't been back to the Stanley Cup final since their inaugural season in 2018, but still, since then have been one of the more dominant teams in the entire league. They have a really nice roster, but that has not been the case so far here in the 2021-2022 season. You remember last year when the Dallas Stars were just absolutely ravaged by injuries and COVID protocol and just every possible way a team could be, broken down? Well, that curse has packed up its things as of right now, moved away from Dallas, Texas, and moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. The Vegas Golden Knights are going through it right now and have several players on injured reserve, some of those being their captain, Mark Stone, Alec Martinez, Zach Whitecloud, Nolan Patrick, who is listed day-to-day, not on IR, but the 3 guys above that, Mark Stone, Alec Martinez, and Zach Whitecloud, all on injured reserve. And then you have 2 guys on long-term injured reserve, and Max Pacioretty and Alex Tuck, both on long-term IR, not looking to be playing anytime soon. And then you have guys like William Carrier, Nicholas Roy, and Brett Howden, who have missed games throughout this young season with injuries, and former Dallas Star Matthias Janmark missing 3 games due to COVID protocol. So maybe no shock there that the former Dallas Star is cursing his new team with COVID protocol issues and having to miss games for that reason. But just an awful roll of the dice for the Vegas Golden Knights at the start of this season. Currently ranked at the bottom of the Pacific Division. They were a team that was considered by many, including myself, to win the Pacific Division. Maybe being challenged by the Edmonton Oilers, or maybe if the Seattle Kraken have a nice season in their inaugural season, which Seattle hasn't gotten off to the hottest start either. But Edmonton at the moment very much running away with that division, so it seems. San Jose has been a nice surprise, as well as a few other teams out west, but overall very much has been Edmonton's division, and Vegas has really been nowhere to be seen in terms of fighting for that top spot. They started hot with a win at home versus the Seattle Kraken, and what was a pretty close, exciting game, but they have yet to find the win column ever since opening night. And to Vegas's credit, many of those games have been close. They've been deciding, by really 1 goal. The games against St. Louis and Edmonton both had goals at the end of the game with an empty Vegas net. So, if you see 3-1 or 4-2, 4-1, whatever the scores might have been, you really maybe take away a goal from the opposition to show how close those games really were. And the Islanders game that they played, their most recent game, as of the time I'm recording this, was close. It was 2-0, and Vegas had a lot of opportunities to put the puck in the net. They just ran into a very hot goalie that night and are just having trouble producing offensively. Similar to another team that we all know and love that wears green and black in the Western Conference. the Dallas Stars, if you're not picking up on my sarcasm. But, in my head, before, as I'm writing this rundown and before I was able to look at all the stats, I thought in my head, man, Vegas is having a tough season. So, their offense has to be worse than Dallas's, right? Like as far as rankings and statistics go. But I was wrong. In case you were wondering how truly awful Dallas's offense has been so far this season, I'm about to give you a little bit of an in-depth look at that. Both teams have been bad on offense, Vegas and Dallas. Vegas just being a tiny bit better. Las Vegas ranks 28th in the NHL in goals for per games played with a nice even 2.0, where Dallas ranks 30th and 1.83 goals per games played. Yet Dallas has a better record. Dallas is finding ways to win games. Of course, all of their wins have come in overtime or in shootouts. So obviously with shootouts, especially being a little different because those aren't counted as normal goals in the stat sheet. But both teams having trouble putting the puck in the net. Some of that has been playing some really talented goalies, and some of that has just been awful offensive production and awful offensive, efficiency and running good possessions. But I think it's a testament to how good Dallas's defense truly is, because they've been able to still win, 3 games in this young season. And some of those wins coming against really, really good teams. Actually, all those wins coming against pretty talented teams. Maybe Los Angeles being the least talented of all those, but, they still have some really, really nice players on their team. And Los Angeles has some nice wins to their credit so far this season, including one against the Vegas Golden Knights in their home opener. I believe it was 6-2. So quite a dominating win. Los Angeles taking down Vegas, but Vegas ranks 7th, which is bad. This is in goals allowed per games played. This is a list that you don't necessarily want to be high up on. And Vegas ranks 7th. They're allowing 3.8 goals per game so far, whereas Dallas is ranked 24th at 2.5, which is good. You want to be lower on this list at goals allowed per games played. Dallas, doing pretty well in that department so far. They haven't necessarily lost too many games in blowout form. I would say that Monday's game against Columbus was the closest it's been to a blowout. The Boston game, maybe you could argue, but again, that game was really kind of a 2-1 affair with Boston scoring an empty netter at the end, but it felt like Boston dominated that whole game. But when you talk about an actual scoreboard domination, you look at the Columbus game on Monday, and that's the closest Dallas has been all season. And so you have to imagine that the morale is pretty low in Las Vegas right now, and rightfully so. Not only have they been on a losing streak, but their last 3 losses have all been at home. They lose to the St. Louis Blues, the Oilers, and the Golden Knights the Islanders. Golden Knights lose to the New York Islanders all at home. Just absolutely awful. You go at home and you expect to, maybe win a game or two when you have a 3-game homestand. The fans are expecting you to win some games, or at least, playing some close games, which they did. But to not be able to pull out any of those games is pretty demoralizing for a team, especially a team that's already missing so many key players and already facing so much adversity in this young season. And they've been competitive. They just haven't been able to close out games or, get back in them if they've been down by a small margin. And so they really are missing some of their main guys, especially their captain, Mark Stone, who is, obviously, with the C on his chest, the leader of this team. And they're absolutely missing his presence on the ice. Hopefully he can come back for them soon. He won't be playing against Dallas tonight, most likely, with him, being injured, as well as many other guys on this roster. And it's also worth noting that Vegas will be playing Dallas in the second game of a back-to-back. At the time of recording this on Tuesday, kind of early afternoon, Vegas has not played their most recent game against the Colorado Avalanche. I believe they play around 5 o'clock Central Time tonight, or maybe it's 5 Mountain Time. They play the Colorado Avalanche tonight in Colorado, and Colorado themselves are a pretty hungry team who has not, started the season to their expectations so far. They've kind of stumbled out of the gates after a nice win against the Chicago Blackhawks on their opening night, but since then have struggled to find consistent ways to win. And so I expect Colorado to come out hungry, and they're in a little bit better shape than Vegas when it comes to health, and they're playing at home. So I expect maybe Colorado to win that game. But whether Vegas wins or not, I think it's worth noting that they will be, fatigued from playing a game and then having to travel to Texas from Colorado. Traveling in and of itself is already, a pretty tough thing to overcome in any sports league, especially at the professional level, but especially after playing a game one night. That's something that Dallas should be looking to capitalize on, because Dallas, is coming off a day in between their games. They played on Monday. They come back to Dallas on Tuesday, rest up a little bit, get prepared mentally for this game. And then, of course, they'll have morning skate on Wednesday in order to prepare, but they'll get to do all of that at home at the American Airlines Center. So a nice, thing to keep in the back of our minds as Stars fans, that hopefully the Dallas Stars will be a little fresher going into this game against Vegas. Coming up next, I will give you some of the matchups to look for in tonight's game versus the Vegas Golden Knights. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to one of the sponsors of today's episode, and that is one of our favorite sponsors in Built Bar. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There's something for everyone. Guys, there's so many good flavors that Built Bar offers. There's bound to be something that you like. They have coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream, and German chocolate. If you haven't tried all these flavors and you feel overwhelmed by the amount that is available to you, don't worry, because Built Bar can send you a mixed box where they'll send you 2 of the 9 flavors in your order. Not only are Built Bars the best tasting bars in the market, but they're also healthy for you as well. 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories that range from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy. You can go to Built.com right now and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Moving on to the next segment of today's episode of Locked On Stars, your first listen of the day. I want to take a moment and give you some of the key matchups to be on the lookout for in tonight's game versus the Vegas Golden Knights. And as I said at the time of recording, Vegas has not played their game against Colorado yet, so this stat is subject to change. But as of right now, Vegas is the only team in the National Hockey League without a power play goal. Every other team in the league has scored on the man advantage at least once, if not multiple times, including the Dallas Stars. So say what you want about the Dallas Stars offense, at least they have scored on the power play. Vegas is, I believe, 0 for 11 at the time of recording this on their power play, opportunities, which one isn't a whole lot of opportunities through how many games that they've played, which I believe, will be 6 by the time you're hearing this episode. So unless something changes in their game against Colorado, which, maybe they'll score on the power play, who knows how many power play opportunities they'll even get against the Avalanche. But this, I think that makes it worth noting that one of the biggest matchups to watch out for isn't necessarily a one-on-one matchup or a player-on-player matchup, but it's rather the Stars' penalty kill units versus the Golden Knights' power play units. And given the way that the Stars' penalty kill has played so far this season, the penalty kill units should have an absolute field day as they are ranked 13th in the league in PK percentage, the Dallas Stars. Having a pretty good season all around defensively and especially on the penalty kill. Guys like Luke Glendening and Michael Raffl have come over in free agency. They have great chances to step up for Dallas in tonight's game. They've already stepped up in huge ways on the offensive side of the ice, but now in tonight's game, I think they have a real opportunity to show what I think Jim Nill and Rick Bowness were looking for from them when they signed them to the Dallas Stars. And that's to be, just nice, knowledgeable veterans, but also guys that know how to kill the penalty consistently. So be on the lookout for that. Expect, if Dallas is committing a lot of penalties, which hopefully they don't. I think a big way to, win this game and build an advantage in this game is to not commit penalties, but it's probably bound to happen at some point that 1, 2, maybe 3 penalties will happen. The Stars should hopefully be in good hands with an efficient penalty kill, units that they roll out there, as well as Vegas struggling on the power play. Chandler Stevenson is a guy on the Vegas Golden Knights roster to be on the lookout for. He currently leads the Golden Knights in points. He had a really nice go-around for Las Vegas last season with a nice, respectable 35 points. And he's been one of the bright spots in an otherwise abysmal lineup so far this season. His mustache is also really immaculate. I was looking at his stats on NHL.com, and there's just a nice picture of this man with, the nice hockey hair flow and then just a really, really nice mustache. 8 out of 10 mustache from my ranking. But Chandler Stevenson, definitely a guy that the Stars will need to take account for. And I think, as talented as he is, I think that he has his work cut out for him with guys like Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, Ryan Suter, John Klingberg, and even Yanni Hakanpää kind of being in his way potentially as the opposition of him, preventing him from scoring goals and being an efficient guy for Vegas, as he's kind of been the guy that's stepped up, if you will, even though not many guys have stepped up for Vegas while they've been missing a lot of their key guys. And whoever is in the net for the Dallas Stars, I think, has a huge opportunity for tonight. I hope that we get to see Braden Holtby in the net because I want to see him get some of his confidence back after Monday's tough outing. Obviously collecting a loss there. Would love to see Braden Holtby, trying to get some of his mojo back and build up some of his confidence that he may have lost Monday playing against a pretty weak offensive attack from the Vegas Golden Knights. But I would also understand if maybe Rick Bowness puts Anton Khudobin in just to rest Braden Holtby after playing Monday, and then the Dallas Stars will play again on Friday night as well. I'm not really sure what his plan is as far as, repeating goalies with days in between games. I know as of recent, this is kind of the first time all season that the Stars have, had a game, day off, A lot of their games have been separated by 2 or 3 days. And so it's easier to start the same goalie pretty much every single game outside of the back-to-back from Boston and Ottawa. So interested to see who's in goal tonight, but a huge opportunity for whoever's there. I would be fully confident in Anton Hudobin's ability to have a good night if Rick Bowness does decide to start him. I personally would just like to see Braden Holtby for the sake of his confidence. Another group of guys that have a big opportunity tonight to show out are Dallas's forwards who have not scored yet this season. Especially the big names. There's a really great opportunity for guys like Jamie Benn, Rupe Hintz, and Alexander Radulov. Those are really the big three that I'm thinking of. And of course, Radulov scored a shootout goal in Pittsburgh. But I'm talking about a real regulation goal, whether it's power play or 5-on-5. Would love to see one of these three, if not all three of these guys, finally find the back of the net and kind of get their confidence going as far as shooting goes. They've been fine contributors on the ice for the team so far this season, but they're just kind of missing out on the scoring party. So I'd love to see these guys step up when they, play their minutes, especially against a broken and beaten down Vegas Golden Knights roster. And I think that even stretches down to some of our lesser known guys that maybe get less minutes on the ice, like Tanner Caro, Joel Kiviranta. I think it could be a big opportunity for these guys to play well. Guys that we know that know the game well and have provided good minutes for the Stars, even though they're not playing as many minutes, because they're likely going to be on the ice with some pretty weak third and fourth lines from the Vegas Golden Knights, just with how stretched thin they are. You have to imagine that the third and fourth lines for Vegas are not the most talented group that they could have if they had a healthy roster. So maybe look for some potential goals or some nice play setups from guys like Tanner Caro, Joel Kiviranta, Joel Hanley, guys like that. Would love to see them get involved as well, not just the big name guys, even though the big name guys would be really nice to see play, excellent as well. John Klingberg, another guy to keep an eye out on. He's looking to continue to get himself back to playing pace after playing for like 3 minutes against the New York Rangers on opening night. Then he missed a bunch of games. He was back Monday. Hopefully he's, able to continue to find his footing, able to find chemistry with Ryan Suter, two veteran guys, one of them, Suter, obviously being more of a veteran, being as old as he is, hoping that they can find really strong chemistry and continue to build upon that. And they can both stay healthy, because I think if they're both healthy, they both provide a really nice defensive tag team. And so hoping to see John Klingberg working back to his normal self. Still, at the time of recording this, don't know if we will see the return of Jason Robertson or Blake Como. Would really like to see, especially Jason Robertson, insert himself back into the lineup, especially with the Stars struggling so much offensively. I think, I don't think he's just going to solve every problem and that we're going to score 5 goals a game. But he just does provide an element to the Dallas Stars that make them so much harder to defend and game plan for. So not sure if we'll see him. If we do, great. If we don't, not great. I want to see Jason Robertson on the ice as soon as humanly possible, where he's healthy and not going to re-injure himself and be out long-term. Coming up next, I will give you some of the keys to the game in my eyes, some things to note that the Dallas Stars need to take advantage of and do well in order to achieve victory against the Vegas Golden Knights at the American Airlines Center. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to another one of our phenomenal sponsors, and that is BetOnline. BetOnline is back and better than ever with the new web interface for the start of the basketball season that features more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus for your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, postseason baseball, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And moving on to the final talking point of today's episode of Locked On Stars, just want to give you some keys to the game, some things that I think the Dallas Stars need to do in order to, get their 4th win of the season, hopefully get their first regulation win of the season. One of the big issues with Monday's loss was just a lack of taking initiative from the Dallas Stars. For those of you who are familiar with John Boy or John Boy Media, he's a big kind of baseball personality, but really has grown into just a huge sports personality who does a lot of, I guess you could say, like sports comedy work on the internet. But he's famous for his breakdowns of plays. If there's like a fight or some kind of confusing rule that's put into effect, especially in baseball, but he sometimes will stretch over into other sports. And on Monday night / Tuesday morning, he stretched over into the NHL and did one of his famous breakdowns analyzing Rick Bowness calling his timeout in Columbus, after Dallas gave up their second goal of the evening. And John Boy, one of his gifts, if you will, is his ability to read lips pretty well. And he was able to decipher what Rick Bowness was saying to his team while on the bench, even though I don't think it was very hard for us to see it, because it's not too hard to read profanity from someone's lips. But one of the few things that Rick Bowness did say that did not contain profanity was the sentence, "There's no passion in that game." Again, he says there's no passion in that game, referring to the Stars' laziness with the puck and their consistent passing out of quality shots. You can kind of pick up on that. You can go find it if you just search John Boy on Twitter. He's a verified account. You should be able to find him. Scroll down, hopefully not too far. And you should see a breakdown of that if you want to go see it for yourself, because I'm not going to repeat a lot of the words that were said by him or Rick Bowness, because that would just not be good. But basically, all that to say, Dallas needs to be sharper with the puck, and they need to play with a lot more passion and a lot more attention to detail if they want to win this game. If they can make clean passes, if they can exit their zone well and, cleanly and smartly, wisely, then there's no reason that they can't wear down this Vegas team and be better than them and prove that they're better than them just based on, who's available on the rosters alone. At the end of the game, I'm hoping the Dallas Stars can look at themselves as a team. They can look at one another, look at their teammates and say, we worked hard for 60 minutes. And the results will hopefully take care of itself. I mean, sometimes you play a really nice, 60-minute hockey game. You play the full game of hockey and you still come up short. But I think if the Dallas Stars play as a team and they play their best hockey as a team tonight, I think, based on who's going to be on the ice for Vegas and who's going to be on the ice for Dallas, that Dallas has the better team, and that if they play well and if they play together, they play with passion, that they can truly come out on top in this game. And I don't think that we've seen them play a full 60 minutes of hockey yet, especially most of these games that they've played. The second period has kind of been the Achilles heel of this team so far, and even sometimes in the third period, there's collapses, or sometimes they play really well and they come up big down the stretch in the third period or in overtime. But I would love to see Dallas just play a normal regulation game where they're able to get a win, and where, they can go to the press conferences after the game, and, the Coach Bowness as well as the players can say, hey, we played a complete hockey game tonight. We left it all out on the ice, and the results show that. I imagine they're going to have a ton of opportunities to score, and a ton of opportunities to shut down Vegas from scoring, whether it's a full even strength or, the power play or the penalty kill opportunity. I think they have a chance to build a nice lead early in this game, establish it, and keep their foot on the gas, especially playing at home. They're going to have the hometown fans on their side again, and we saw how well that worked for them on Friday night against Los Angeles. I predict a nice 3-1 win for the Dallas Stars with Joe Pavelski scoring the first goal. I haven't been right on a first goal prediction yet for the Dallas Stars. Maybe that'll change tonight. Would love to see Joe Pavelski get on the board again for the first time in a while. Let me know what you think. You can find me on Twitter at Dane_Lewis, and let me know what your predictions are for this game. Would love to hear what you guys have to say about tonight's game. That's all we have for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Tune in tomorrow for a recap and breakdown of tonight's game against the Vegas Golden Knights. Thank you again for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. Now go make your second listen of the day, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Host Scott Cullen leans in on his decades of fantasy hockey insight and experience every day to help you be the expert of your fantasy league. His podcast is free and available on all platforms. Again, that's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show. Be sure to tell your friends about the show, Locked On Stars. If you haven't done so already, leave a review if you like what you hear. Truly appreciate it. It helps me out a ton. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at Dane_Lewis. That's at DANE2_LEWIS. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Stars. Thank you guys so much for listening. I truly appreciate it. And we will see you back here tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Stars.